All right, everybody, here we are for episode 51 of Now Showing with Mike and Wayne. Sorry, Now Showing with Mike and Wayne!
And from now on,
That's right, everybody, we're talking musicals this week, if you can't tell by our lovely singing voices. Everybody, if you've listened to this show, you know I'm not the fondest person of musicals, but I figured this week was a good week. Our movie we are reviewing is a musical, so I figured we'd dive in. I know Wayne is a huge fan of musicals.
I can enunciate from the back row.
I was in one musical in my life, and it was because they didn't have enough guys trying out. I didn't want to do it because I did all the high school plays, and I'm like, I don't do musicals. They didn't make me, but they asked if I would do it. I played a tree, Wayne. So, sha. That was my big line. I was also in the ocean, I think, too. I did like a wave thing with like it was once upon a time on an island or once upon an island, some shit like that.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I wish I could have been in the plays and the musicals, but because I played football and I was so convoluted in thinking it was the most important thing in my life during high school, I never had the opportunity because, the life of a high school football player, unfortunately, is 365, 24/7, because if you're not doing ball-related things, you got to be in the weight room, and you got to be doing this, and you got to be doing manly things. It's like...
And we all know Wayne loves doing ball-related things.
Indeed, My ball handling skills are at 1,000. But yeah, I do regret not being able to do more. And, that's why, I don't know if either one of our sons are really athletically inclined.
Donovan can shoot a basketball, that is for sure, which I've been trying to get him to take it a little more seriously. But he's never really shown an interest in really much anything outside of dinosaurs. So hopefully he can get into acting. I really enjoyed it when I did it. I did it a little in junior high and high school. But like I said, one musical, and I wasn't even a big fan of that, so it was fine. We're going to get started, though, Wayne. I'm going to let you get us started because you are the musical fan here. So go ahead and get us. Mine are all going to be, just so everybody knows, the ones I talk about are mostly going to be a little strange. So you're going to go and probably talk about the ones people really want to hear about.
Well, there's a couple of things we're going to start with here. We're going to talk about all of the well-known ones. I'm not going to dive way back into Oklahoma and Seven Brides for Seven Brothers. Classic ones, but I don't know a lot about those. I haven't seen them in years, so I'm not going to try and fake my way through that and lie to our 7 people that are listening to our podcast right now. I love those 7 of you, though. Thank you.
Yes, we appreciate you.
I also we're all going to dive into what I wanted to touch on. A lot of these, musicals that are made into movies are based off critically acclaimed, Tony Award-winning, massive, successful things, and whether or not it held up the transition from Broadway to from one theater to the other theater. So, all right, let's talk about. I'm going to go right off the bat. Let's talk about West Side Story, 1961.
Okay.
Natalie Wood. Let's see what else we got here. George Chakiris, Richard Benmer, Russ Timblin, Rita Moreno, Simon Oakfield, Ned Glass. All right, so for those of you that don't know the story, the story of the West Side or West Side Story, here's the quickest breakdown I can give you. 2 youngsters from rival New York City gangs fall in love, but tensions between their respective friends build toward tragedy. Dare I say Romeo and Juliet? Yeah, yes, I think that's actually what it is based off of.
It is based on Romeo and Juliet, yes.
And, this is a classic, it's a classic movie. It's a classic film. Obviously, no, movies and film are the same thing. It's a classic play, musical.
Yes.
There's not a whole bunch to say. You've got the snapping of the sing-alongs.
Yes, you have Maria and Tony, who are the new Romeo and Juliet.
Yes.
The white gang and the Hispanic gang, they're against each other. Fight breaks out. Some of them die. I don't remember who. It's just one of those, it's a tragic love story, if you will, that I believe has somewhat more of a happier ending, I think, than Romeo and Juliet, I think.
To be honest with you, I haven't seen it in so long, I don't remember how it
I'm
ends.
pretty sure they end up together. Rita Moreno, one of the only Hispanic people in the actual movie.
Mhm.
So that is something that was definitely talked about today in that it was a majority white cast, a lot of them playing Hispanic characters.
Right.
At least they did get Rita Moreno in there. So she was, I believe she was, I don't know if she won, but I'm pretty sure she was nominated for Best Supporting Actress in that.
Which is why our first review this week, our first main review, In the Heights, is going to be such a great topic because it is primarily a Hispanic or black cast.
Yes.
And
Yes. Well, and also the remake of West Side Story by Steven Spielberg obviously fixed that problem. He cast Hispanic people to play the Hispanic people and white people to play the white people. So it's something we'll have a version that'll look more like a actual representation of what was going on. Now, that aside, obviously it was 1961. So things were a little different. People were, just kind of trying to cast actors, and there weren't a lot of minority actors that were allowed to kind of be part of the big Hollywood gang. So if you had a movie like this, you're kind of going down the list of who would be the part. Interesting enough, too, Russ Tamblyn, who is the father of Amber Tamblyn from Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants, he was one of the characters who played Riff in the original movie.
right.
So yes, you're asking how old is he? I think he just passed away recently, but he was really old, and he had her when he was pretty old, I believe. If he didn't pass away, he's just old. Oh no, he's still alive. Born in 1934, though. He's 86. She's like, I think, our age or younger. My parents are not 86 yet. So it's it's a really interesting movie. I watched it with Rebecca a couple years ago. It's a fun little. I shouldn't say fun's not really the right word, but it's a musical, so it's supposed to be fun. The songs are really good. The sets look fantastic. The acting is really, really good. Everyone sings really well. So if you have, I believe it's on Amazon Prime now, I think. So check that out if you haven't seen West Side Story. If you're like me and haven't watched a lot of musicals, like there are probably going to be a bunch that Wayne's going to talk about that I'm going to have to go, maybe I'll have to check it out. But that one's definitely one I even recommend for people.
Right. Again, next one I want to talk about. We talked about it within the last month. Little Shop of Horrors, one of my favorite ones.
Now
I think it does appeal to you a little bit because of the man-eating plant.
Of course. I grew up on that movie. I love that movie.
Feed me.
Obviously, starring Rick Moranis. I believe it was directed by Frank Oz, correct? Let's see, hold on. I'm looking it up right now. Yeah, Frank Oz. Yeah. The voice of Yoda, also a director. Adapted this movie, I think it was just a regular movie before, I believe. The original Roger Corman version, I don't believe, is a musical. So I'm pretty sure they turned it into a musical based on that original film. And then, obviously, this one has become way more famous than that one. There's been talks of remakes happening in the future, or TV shows, however they want to do it. Nothing has happened yet. It stars Rick Moranis, Ellen Green, Vincent Gardenia, Steve Martin, Levi Stubbs, Jim Belushi, Tashina Arnold, John Candy, the late and lovely John Candy, Christopher Guest, Bill Murray as the patient. Let's see, a lot of just like great actors that got like cameos and stuff too. Like obviously Bill Murray's not a main character in the movie. Audrey 2 is performed by Anthony Asbury, Brian Henson, Mac Wilson, Robert Tigner, Sue Dacre, David Barclay, Marcus Clark, Paul Springer, a bunch of people. I'm not going to read all those names. It's a lot of names. This movie, it always just kind of spoke to me, when it came out. And it was so weird and so bizarre that it captured my attention, aside from it being a musical, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you know what? Back then, too, when I was a kid, when we were kids, Aladdin was big, Little Mermaid, those were musicals. So, I think I was more receptive to those back then.
Right.
One of the ones on my list, too, it was from back in that time, too, which we've already talked about, so I'll mention a little bit. But, so I really did dig this movie. I think having Rick Moranis and Bill Murray both be in the movie was big for me as a child because of Ghostbusters. So it's like, another movie with these two people, and it's about a planet that eats people. That's amazing.
And they just steal their scenes.
Bill Murray is great. I remember him, and I know it's only like one scene.
Oh, Candy Bar!
He's so good in it, and it's just like literally he's one of Steve Martin's patients. I mean, that's all he is, and it's just such a fun movie. Steve Martin is great. He's always great when he plays that kind of douchey character, the one that you're not supposed to like. No, I'm not thinking of My Cousin or My Blue Heaven. Almost said My Cousin Vinny. Wrong movie. Wrong Italian.
My Blue Vinny.
Yeah, My Blue Vinny. Also named Vinny though, so you don't understand the confusion. So it's not like that type of kind of D-bag where you're supposed to it's not the lovable one. You're kind of supposed to not like this guy. But he's so great and so smarmy at playing that character. And
just the little balloons that fill up with the laughing gas?
Yeah. It's another one I haven't seen in quite some time, but I remember quite a bit of it because I watched it that much when I was a kid. So yeah, I really recommend Little Shop of Horrors if you have not checked it out yet.
Two things I want to piggyback off of what you said right there. The horror musicals like Sweeney Todd from I believe 2008 or 2009.
Around that time. A little bit later. It's actually on my list, so we'll hold off on diving into that one. But yeah, Sweeney Todd.
Fantastic. Yep. And just what can be considered a musical? Again, I'm all over the place because I am not somebody who I enjoy them very much, but I am not knowledgeable to any level to comment on all that stuff.
And you're not the type of guy that's going to watch them every time they hit the theater. I don't think like the live. I'm talking like live production of them.
I would, if I could afford to, I would go a lot more. But heck, man, I can't even afford my rent half the time.
So yeah, there are those people that are, Broadway heads, if you will, and they are going to be the ones. They're the targeted audience when these movies are made first. They're like, oh, let's see if we can get those people to go to the theater and talk about our movie. And then even if it's a new musical, like A Little Shop of Horrors, like maybe they'll start performing it, which they do now. Mm-hmm. And as well as some of the other things that have now been like Lion King the musical and stuff like that have been turned into musicals from the movie. So it does happen the reverse way, which is fun to see.
Right. And then just piggybacking again off of like your comment about just horror and musicals and whatnot, let's talk about Rocky Horror Picture Show and how I think we're both in agreement that not anything that really lives up to the hype for me.
It really didn't. Rocky Horror was one of those things that I don't want to say people forced it on me, but I was in the theater. I acted in high school, so I was hung around with a lot of the theater kids, and theater kids love Rocky Horror the musical. My sister really loved it, so it was something that I kind of grew up with in my life, but it was not something I was ever like super fond of. I love the cast. The cast is fantastic. It's got a great cast. It's got some really good songs in it. It's just not my style, and that's what you'll hear me say throughout probably like a lot of my musicals that I do. Like either one, they got to be funny, they got to be gory, or they got to be fantasy, which we talked about Chicago previously, so I don't have that one on my list, but we talked about that one. That one I like because a lot of it was in her head. It was a fantasy, or it was on stage for being performed. Right. Where something like Rocky Horror or like West Side Story, like it's like going to the grocery store, like getting out some milk, stuff like that. Now, I'm not saying that that's in Rocky Horror, but I'm saying every line that they do basically is sung. So it's that at times can get on my nerve. At times it's not that bad. So it just depends on maybe it's the mood I'm in. The sing talking as they call it, I believe.
Yeah. The 1975 Rocky Horror Picture Show. A newly engaged couple have a breakdown in an isolated area and must seek shelter at the bizarre residence of Dr. Frank Infurter.
Yes.
We've got Tim Curry, obviously, as Dr. Frankenfurter, and I believe he's a couple of other characters as well. The lovely Susan Sarandon, Barry Bostwick, Richard O'Brien.
Who's the creator of Rocky Horror.
Patricia Quinn, Nell Campbell, Jonathan Adams.
Meatloaf.
Yeah. Peter Hindwood.
Yep.
Obviously, Meatloaf, Charles Gray. Cast goes on and on. My first experience of this was with a girl that I was dating who was very much into musical theater, and she went to a different school than I did, and they do their midnight showings, and where everybody dresses up, and I was the only jock there dressed up in my American Eagle stuff, and everybody else is all glammed out, so immediately I stuck out like a sore thumb, and she was doing the sing-alongs and all the goofy shit where they get up and run up and down the aisles.
Yep.
And I'm kind of just sitting there going, I have no idea what's going on. It's like 1 o'clock in the morning, and I'm exhausted, and my girlfriend is running around in fishnets and a bustier, and she's on the other side of the room. So yeah, needless to say, it was not set up for success for me.
Yeah, it was funny is that's basically my first experience. It was a buddy of mine. He brought me. He's like, "Hey man, like people love this thing, and I want you to see it because we're both in plays and stuff, and you think you're gonna dig it." And I couldn't get into it. The live performance and stuff just wasn't interesting enough to me. The movie, the movie when you really look at it, is a bad movie, and that's why people like it because it's one of those movies that's so bad it's good.
Yeah.
Trust me, I love a lot of those movies. For some reason, I couldn't get into that one. Now, maybe I haven't seen it in a while. Maybe I need to give it a second chance. That's something I'll think about. Maybe when Halloween's coming back around here soon.
Yeah. I mean, it's maybe we should review it around Halloween.
We should.
Time.
You know what? I think we should.
I remember one of the songs that he sings is about being a sweet transvestite.
Yes,
sweet transsexual. It's like, hey, you know what?
It's one. I guarantee you, it's a musical that the reason it stuck around is because it keeps resonating with generations.
Exactly.
Which I have no problem with. It's great. One of the ones I'm going to talk about is something has kind of done that as well. So I think that's a good thing, and that's something that we, like Wayne said, we will review it around Halloween. We'll both watch it again and see how our feelings, if we've changed maybe on that one.
Maybe we should go to see if we can find a midnight show. I could really engulf ourselves into it.
We'll have to check it out.
But again, just making the point, just because neither Michael nor myself particularly cared for that,
yeah,
we still will point out the things that it does for the community,
yes.
Things that it just does great. Well, we're still going to point out things that it totally misses on. So
yes, exactly. And it was one of those things that it's good because it does get that kind of midnight crowd together, and I have much appreciation for people that do that kind of stuff, go to the midnight showings, celebrations, all that kind of stuff. So that's really cool, and I'm glad that it's still going. I mean, people still do that. I'm sure, obviously, through the pandemic, it slowed down, but I'm sure it's coming back, and people are going to be doing it this Halloween.
I guarantee if we do a Google search, we will find a Zoom Rocky Horror Group.
Right. Oh, you know what? You're probably right. All right, so I'm gonna jump in here real quick with one I think that probably a lot of people haven't heard of. It's a twofer I'm gonna do because it's the creators, Trey Parker and Matt Stone. It becomes synonymous, obviously, with South Park, which we'll get to that in a minute. But before they did that, in 1993, they did a movie called Cannibal the Musical, which is a musical based on the true story of Alfred Packer, who is in history believed to be the first cannibal because he was part of maybe not the first cannibal, but a famous cannibal, if you will, because I'm sure people were eating people long ago. He was part of like a kind of like a Lewis and Clark expedition, Wayne, and he ended up getting getting lost or whatever. So they ended up having to eat people in order to survive. Basically, that's the premise of this movie, and he's put on trial. So Trey Parker plays Packer, and they basically took this guy's life story from the 1870s and turned it into a trauma-esque musical with great songs. Because if you watch South Park or know that Trey and Matt created one of the biggest Broadway hits in the last 10 years, Book of Mormon, they know how to write music, and they did a great job with this one. I think it's little known. It's gross. There's scenes of them like chomping on bones and eating meat and stuff while singing songs. It's really fun. It's one of those ones you could find it out there. I have a DVD copy of it. I bought it years ago when I started working at Blockbuster. The guys that worked there turned me on to it. They're like, "Oh, you gotta watch Cannibal the Musical." I was like, "Huh?" And it's so good. It's been a while since I've seen it, but it's really good. It's really funny. It's got obviously Trey Parker and Matt Stone in it, as well as Dion Bacher, who was played Squeak in basketball, and did voices on South Park and stuff. It's really, and I think it was like bought by Troma like after they made it, so it is technically a Troma movie, but it really wasn't. It was made before Troma got involved. But if you can catch it, if you can find it, Cannibal the Musical, definitely watch that movie. It is hilarious. It's got great music. It's really funny. I mean, that's all I could say about it. There's a song called "When I Was on Top of You." There is a song called "Let's Build a Snowman," I just want to put that out there too because I know that's they did in Frozen. There's a song.
Frozen, one of the greatest animated musicals
They
of the last 10 years.
They still went from Cannibal to musical of all things.
Do you want to eat a snowman?
And then there's one called Hang the Bastard. So you can guess how the ending of the movie goes.
Maybe we shouldn't eat the yellow snowman.
So that segues into my next one, and I'm sure anyone that knows these guys knows what I'm going to talk about. And that's probably my favorite musical, and that is South Park, Bigger, Longer, and Then Cut. It is one of the funniest, and I don't know if you agree, Wayne. It's very crass, so I get that people that, like my brother-in-law hates it, so I completely understand. And he likes South Park. He just doesn't like musicals, so he really is not a fan of that one. When I saw this movie in the theaters, man, I couldn't stop laughing the entire time. I still think of the songs today. I mean, everybody remembers Robin Williams performing it at the Oscars when they were nominated for Best Song for Blank Canada. It's so amazing. And it's early, too. The crazy thing is, like, it was made maybe 2 years into the show. So to have
Was that 99?
Yeah, I believe it was 1999.
I remember watching it regularly in 97 as a sophomore.
So they had, that's when the show started, and then the movie came out in 99.
Yeah,
so
after its third season, it's like,
there's
bold strategy, Cotton. See if it works out for them. I think it did.
It did. I'd say it did. I mean, their show is still going on today. And the movie wasn't like a huge box office hit, mainly because it got pulled real early. I don't know if you remember that. I saw it, I think, opening weekend, and I want to say either the next week or the week after most theaters had pulled it because the problem was his kids were sneaking into it.
Mm-hmm.
So and they didn't like it. It was hard for them to control, which is funny because if you see the movie, that's actually what the movie's about. So it's funny that the kids were sneaking into the movie about kids sneaking into movies.
All the pre-generation Karens and Kevins were having a tissy.
Yes, they were. I really can't repeat all the language, but just every song is memorable, I think. The opening song, and they have the Blame Canada, they have the Clitoris song with Stan. They have the French kid who is hilarious. It's just there's so much in this movie. There's the cameo by George Clooney, who plays the doctor in the ER when Kenny dies. He's like, son, sorry, but we replaced your heart with a baked potato. You have about 5 seconds to live. And then he dies and goes to hell, where we then meet Satan and also Saddam Hussein. So there's so many characters in this movie. Satan is definitely one of the main characters, and he is great, as well as who the two characters from the movie that they go see in the movie, Terrence and Phillip. Terrence and Phillip are fantastic characters. It's just such a good movie. I know it's not for everybody, so I get that. So if you're like, oh my god, I hate South Park, or I don't like animated musicals.
I've downloaded this podcast to hear about the grace and dignity of the theater, and you're talking about this dribble.
Exactly. So that to me is like my favorite musicals, and maybe you'll understand where I'm coming from. So both movies are by Trey Parker, Matt Stone. Obviously, they also did Team America, and they wrote like we talked about, one of the biggest Broadway musicals of the last 10 years, Book of Mormon, which I still have yet to see. I'm hoping they're going to make a movie, or at least just film it and release it so I can watch it. But they're, to me, creative geniuses, and I think South Park the musical, like I said, to me it's one of my favorites, if not my favorite. And so that's what I gotta say. Wayne, you're going to take it from here?
You know, there are so many other musicals that we're not going to get a chance to talk to. I mean, obviously, I want to just mention La La Land, Phantom of the Opera. You know, obviously La La Land.
Singing in the Rain.
Singing in the Rain. One of my favorites, but I know I've mentioned it before, so I don't want to just repeat myself.
Mary Poppins.
Mary Poppins is fantastic. Chim chimney, chim chimney, chim chim chim. But there's one that I want to talk about. The 2017's The Greatest Showman. Now, we both previously worked for a company that owned Ringling Brothers and Barnum.
That basically existed because of this man.
We are talking about the movie biopic. P.T. Barnum.
Yes. It's a very fictional biopic from what I've heard.
Yeah, apparently he was
not a nice man. But We're not here to talk about him.
Yep.
We're here to talk about the musical. And I hear the musical is fantastic.
The Greatest Showman celebrates the birth of show business and tells a visionary who rose from nothing to create a spectacle that becomes a worldwide sensation. Now, all right, the cast is fantastic. You've got Hugh Jackman as P.T. Barnum, and I don't know if there's ever anything I haven't loved Hugh Jackman in.
Yes.
Even if the production or the movie was bad, he was still
He's usually
top
still
notch.
very talented.
And honestly, when you say Hugh Jackman to most people, oh, Wolverine.
Yeah.
And rightly so. That fantastic.
Played
And
it for 20 years.
and all 17,000 movie
Yeah.
appearances that he's made. But he is actually one of the most talented and award-winning Broadway
Yes, a lot of
thespians, theater performers. Look at me trying to use fancy words, folks.
That works.
But yeah, just all around a fantastic voice, amazing singer. Michelle Williams plays Charity Barnum, his wife. Zac Efron plays Phil Carlisle.
It's funny. I feel like
Zendaya.
people forget Zac Efron can sing, but that's all he did from the beginning of his career.
Yeah, High School the Musical. I mean, I love me some 17 again. Anytime that is on, I'm sitting there and watching it. So, judge away. Obviously, Zendaya plays Zac Efron's love interest. What I really love about this movie, and again, from what I understand, it's not factual, but the movie itself, P.T. Barnum is looking for oddities, if you will, unique people that can put on a show, people that can entertain. And, he starts out looking for former freak show people that are oddities, that are not the norm. Obviously, one of his highlighted characters that he pursues is the bearded lady, who is honestly beautiful in her own right. And I don't know whether or not the beard is real. I don't think so, but she is a wonderful, wonderful character who just has some facial, extremities, if you will. The very tall, the very fat. There's a conjoined twin. Or conjoined twins, excuse me. And again, there's a whole, there's another word for them that we don't use anymore because of, appropriateness and using common sense. It's funny because he brings all these people together. He brings all of these people together, gives them a purpose, gives them an income, and a lot of people love it. But there are those that think the freaks need to go back to where they came from, and that's kind of the basis of the antithesis of the movie. It's like the protests and stop this show. It's not right. They're harming us by entertaining us, by putting on stage and earning a living. And while all this is going on, P.T. Barnum is got his eyes set to the horizon for bigger and better things and worldwide and this and that. Well, all while his little show is just in the theater, it's making money, it's entertaining people, it's doing this, that, and the other thing. Eventually the people that don't like the show eventually burn the building down. So the show is essentially over. Well, I believe P.T. Barnum is somewhere in Europe when this happens or whatnot, and Zac Efron's trying to hold it together, and he is almost killed in the fire. Then Zendaya. Oh, that's the other thing. He comes from a wealthy family. His love interest Zendaya is obviously not white, so his parents, oh my God, we cannot marry this woman. So there's this clash thing, and upon his death, they realize their love for each other, and happy endings there. And the building burning down, it leads to multiple things. P.T. Barnum realizing what's really important. He goes back to his wife and his children to be a father to them. And also it's like, you know what? Maybe we don't need a building. And it kind of leads the way into the traveling circus, tents, and where all that stuff comes from. But I mean, the music is fantastic. Obviously, From Now On. What I've butchered a few times already, and it's my favorite musical song right now, probably maybe ever. But I don't know, it gives me all of the feels. It's basically just P.T. Barnum realizing what's important. It starts out. I used to drink champagne with kings and queens, and from now on, my eyes will not be blinded by the light. And from now on, I almost bust out in the song again.
We're going to have to pay for that. Stop doing that.
It was less than 5 seconds, so I think we're okay.
Okay.
But yeah, I have gone on and on.
Wait, and no one listens. I'm just kidding.
Well, okay. If you know what? If no one listens to this version of the podcast, it's fine because you know what? I am thoroughly enjoying my time with you, sir, and just talking about stuff that we love. So
of course. We're obviously very self-deprecating. We know that we're not superstars, but we do.
It keeps our massive egos in check.
Yes,
so.
we do appreciate everyone that does listen to us. All right, the next one I want to talk about, and this is probably one of the goriest musicals I've seen, and that is Sweeney Todd, the Demon Barber of Fleet Street from 2007, directed by Tim Burton, screenplay by John Logan, starring Johnny Depp, obviously, because it's Tim Burton. Helena Bonham Carter, obviously, because it's Tim Burton. Alan Rickman, Timothy Spall, Jane Weisner, Sacha Baron Cohen, getting to sing a little bit here, which is nice.
For a while there, I thought you were just reading a Harry Potter movie that I just cast.
Until I got to Sasha. Lauren Michelle Kelly, Jamie Campbell Bower, and Ed Sanders. So Sweeney Todd is the story of an eccentric barber who like moves to this area and has like this kind of horrid past, and he meets this woman played by Helena Bonham Carter, who is Nellie Lovett, who basically she runs the house that he stays in, the barbershop he works at, that type of thing. Like she's the landlord.
Yep.
And with her, like kind of, at least in this movie, I haven't seen the musical. I know there's been other movies I haven't seen. I think I saw one of them years ago, like on pay-per-view from the 90s, which was decent. But she kind of like nudges him on to like do what he's doing, which is he starts murdering people, his clients, slicing their throats, and then like they start turning him into meat pies.
Yeah.
And that's something that she is more into, like, hey, let's do this too. And all in between it, there's some really great songs that, you know, are very dark and very demented, but are, you know, and also fun to listen to, I would say.
Crazy story about this particular film musical. I first heard about it in the movie Jersey Girl. Now, if you remember Ben Affleck's daughter, you know, everybody is singing a song from Cats. And instead of doing that, I believe the love interest is that Tyler.
Liv Tyler.
Liv Tyler. And the daughter decided to, I think it was Liv. Forget me if I'm getting the movie wrong. Anyway, that's not the point. That's not the point. I first found out about Sweeney Todd because of the movie Jersey Girl. So
interesting.
I know I kind of just maybe it took us a left turn there, but yeah.
Well, it was 3 years before. Yes, it was Liv Tyler, George Carlin, and Ben Affleck. Final screen performance of George Carlin.
I was going to say one of George Carlin's final performances.
But anyway, back to Sweeney Todd. It's as Tim Burton-y as you can imagine. It looks like a Tim Burton film. It sounds like a Tim Burton film. It basically sounds like Nightmare Before Christmas, but in live action. Again, it's a great cast. Depp is... It's funny because it was really... It's not his first musical for Johnny Depp, because he did another one I'll just mention here. I won't go into detail with Crybaby from John Waters. But in Crybaby, Johnny Depp didn't sing. They brought in another singer, because Depp, he had his band or whatever, but he wasn't a professional singer. So he really did. So Sweeney Todd represents the first time that he's actually sung on film. So I thought that was an interesting kind of take going into this movie, and like, whoa, well, how's he going to sound? It sounded pretty good. I mean, you know, he wasn't. Maybe he's not Hugh Jackman, but he was pretty good. He's got a pretty good voice, and he plays these weird, dark, creepy little characters so well. So I mean, it's.
Side note, sorry, not to.
Sure.
Did he sing in Charlie and the Chocolate Factory?
No, he did not.
Okay.
It was the only musical parts in that were the Oompa Loompas.
Okay. Because I remember, obviously, we're trying to think back to the Willy Wonka.
The remake, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Yes, that's another musical we should mention. That's a classic, obviously, Willy Wonka. But in Charlie, they took out all the singing parts because they wanted to make it more like the book. And in the book, the only singing parts are those little poems by the Oompa Loompas.
Right.
So that's why they did it that way. I know musical fans were not happy because they wanted their Willy Wonka to sing.
And also Willy Wonka was kind of a creepy
Yes.
creeper.
Yes, he was. But yes, so Sweeney Todd, if you've avoided it because, at that point Tim Burton was becoming maybe too much Tim Burton, and people were starting not to pay attention as much, you may have missed it. I do recommend checking it out because I wasn't sure about it either. It's a musical. I was kind of like, I don't know, man. And I watched it, and I thought it was fantastic. It is gory and bloody. So if that bothers you, do not turn it on. But if you can find it out there, so I'm sure it could be streaming somewhere, check it out. Wayne, what's the next one you want to talk about?
Let's see. I think we're pretty much wrapped up on stuff that I wanted to talk about. Obviously, the list goes on and on and on. I mentioned the Phantom of the Opera. I mean, that's one of those that the movie or the film adaptations don't really live up to the play, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, but the music obviously is fantastic. I talked about Cats and the failure of the most recent attempt.
Yes.
How they have the half human, half cat animated deals, but I mean, iconic songs.
I heard it was so strange. I haven't seen Cats, but I heard it was just like a weird movie.
Yeah, but I mean, just the iconic tracks like This I Promise You from Phantom of the Opera, one of mine and my wife's favorites. Memory from Cats. I mean, everybody sings it in the recitals and everything. So, again, great musicals that really just didn't translate into film.
I've got one more I want to talk about.
Okay.
So hold on. Hedwig and the Angry Inch. I think more people know about this musical more as a Broadway show, but it actually started as a movie. In 2001, John Cameron Mitchell created this musical that was loosely kind of based on his own life. And he, it's like a rock and roll musical, kind of. Let me get to the plot, because I don't want to mess anything up. Hansel Schmidt is an East German genderqueer teenager who loves rock music and is stuck in East Berlin until they meet Sergeant Luther Robinson, an American soldier. Luther proposes marriage to Hansel, planning to allow Hansel to leave socialist East Germany for the West. Hansel's mother, Hedwig, gives her child her name and passport and finds a doctor to perform a gentalic reassignment surgery. The operation is botched, however, leaving Hansel, now Hedwig, with a dysfunctional 1-inch mound of flesh between her legs, the titular Angry Inch. Obviously, John Cameron Mitchell was about kind of like his life growing up. A lot of that stuff I don't believe happened to him. But it's a crazy story. It's about having the strength to kind of be who you are, which is, when something like that happens to you. And it's such a really good musical with great songs in it and great performances by John Cameron Mitchell, who plays Hedwig, and Miriam Shore plays Yitzhak. Stephen Trask is Scuzzup. These names are hard to say. Michael Pitt is also in it as Tommy Speck. He, I believe, is the love interest of Hedwig. Let's see if there's another actress that he's worked with before. Soo-Kyun Lee is in it as well, and she was in one of his other movies. And she gives a really good performance. It's hard to explain it without having seen it in a while, but it's become such a popular Broadway show that I think people forget about the movie. And I want people to go back and watch this film. Neil Patrick Harris made it famous on Broadway. I think it's funny that it was in 2001 as this little kind of indie film that came out, and now it's this huge Broadway show people talk about. It won Tonys, I believe. I'm sure that's probably what John Cameron Mitchell, maybe he intended. It was just at that time it was easier for him to get the movie made than to get the musical done. And he's gone on to do many things in Hollywood. He's worked with Nicole Kidman. He's directed non-musicals like Short Bus, Rabbit Hole, which is the one with Nicole Kidman. He worked on Nurse Jackie, Happy-ish, which is a TV show. How to Talk to Girls at Parties was his newest one. He directed some episodes of Glow too, Wayne. So he's kind of made a name for himself, but it all started with Hedwig and the Angry Inch when it comes to directing. I'm just looking, and he was on a bunch of like TV shows and stuff too. It looks like.
Mm-hmm.
But he was a working actor since the '80s, so that's gonna happen. So I just wanted to mention that one because I was gonna mention it when we were talking in our Pride Month episode, but I totally forgot. I think I mentioned the name, but I wanted to talk about it a little bit. Mm-hmm. So it's out there. I'm sure you can find it either rent or buy cheap. It's really good. Check it out if you haven't seen it. I'm hoping they do like a special Criterion edition of it someday because it kind of deserves it. All right, so we will move on. Other ones: Nightmare Before Christmas, Rocketman, Crybaby. I mentioned Crybaby earlier, so those are other ones that I like. Rocketman's probably one of my favorites of recent memory to come out. All right, so we're going to go into our reviews
Of the week.
And this week we have 2 musicals. Now, so we're going to start, Wayne, with the second one. Well, usually we do the new movie first, but we're going to start with the second one because we didn't talk about, everyone's like, well, they didn't talk about Grease at all. Well, we're going to talk about it now.
Well, tell me more, did you get very far? Yeah, I got through the whole thing.
So, in 1977, came this movie called Grease. And to those, or 1978, I guess, sorry, I was off by a year. I have never seen Grease, Wayne. Never saw it. Saw bits and pieces of it. I finally watched it on Friday night.
Yeah.
And it was pretty good. It's not, I don't think it's a masterpiece. I don't know if I'm wrong saying this. I know other people will probably stab me if I say this.
I'm sure people are going to be like, he was in theater and he's never seen Grease.
Yes.
So.
And you know what? It just happened that way. I never made it a goal to.
Oops.
Yeah. I never made it a goal to seek out the musicals. It's something I'm going to, like, as I get older, probably watch a few more of the older ones because I'm trying to get through, like, AFI's Top 100 and stuff like that. And a lot of those are musicals. So it came out in 1978, stars a young John Travolta, and I'll say he was one of the younger cast members.
Yeah.
Everybody else wasn't very young.
They didn't really look like they belonged in high school.
No. And even him, like, he didn't really look like it. He was only 23. So.
John Travolta coming off of Saturday Night Fever and the sitcom where...
Welcome Back, Kotter.
Thank you. So, yeah, he was a star on the rise, to say the least.
Yes. Also starred Olivia Newton-John, Stockard Channing, Jeff Conaway, Eve Harden, Frankie Avalon, which there's a story here. So Frankie Avalon, I know he's like a big musical guy, but me and my best friend Jeb, we used to watch in the 80s. This movie came out called Back to the Beach, which was like a parody of their beach movies that they would do with him and Annette Funicello. Now this one wasn't. Back to the Beach isn't really a musical though. But it has, I believe, the first appearance of Pee Wee Herman, because I think it came out before Pee Wee's Big Adventure, I believe. So that was my introduction to Frankie Avalon. So now every time I see him, I'm like, hey, it's the Back to the Beach guy, where I'm sure if I said that in front of Frankie Avalon fans, people would probably freak out a little bit. But to me, that's what I know him from.
Because in the 60s, he did movies like Beach Blanket Bingo.
Yep, that's the one I'm aware of. I never saw it, but I'm aware of that one.
Oh, and Ski Party in the Slopes.
That was when those, like, beach musicals were, like, just fun, easy drive-in material, and that's what they were made for. I mean, it was like having the Grindhouse horror films were made for the drive-in. Those little fun beach movies were made for the drive-in. They were kind of easy to watch. You didn't really have to pay attention. You could make out with your best girl, which that's a line. That's something from like the '60s that someone would say.
Frankie Avalon was also in Casino.
Yes.
Big into like those songs, especially, were also big into like mob movies and stuff.
Yes, for sure.
And guys, as you know, anytime I can stick a mob quote or bring them up, I'm going to. So I apologize. But.
Sid Caesar, which I actually didn't realize until the second movie that he was in the first one. I'm like, oh, that was Sid Caesar. He's kind of funny in the movie, I think, as the coach.
Yeah. Now, I will say, I'm not 100% certain, but I'm pretty sure the actor Jeff Conway that played Kinnicky actually played Danny Zuko in the play in 1971.
Oh, really? Oh, that's interesting.
Also, I believe...
You mean when he was closer to being a teenager?
Yeah, and Stockard Channing was also... I believe she played Sandy at one point.
Interesting.
So, interesting little tidbits
here.
Well,
and Stockard Channing, I know for sure. She has a musical background, lots of Broadway. She was the oldest, I think, out of all of them. She was like 33 when they shot it. And Jeff Conaway, I know more from like Taxi, and then unfortunately from the reality stuff where he was kind of brought out to be like a real pain in the ass and a real a-hole.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Yes, but and lots of drugs have kind of led down that path, and he unfortunately passed away a few years ago. But he was good as Kaneki. I mean, it's weird because I know the characters, I know the actors, so it was weird like actually seeing it for the first time and not like just in passing. So
what is interesting about this, and knowing the characters and everything, but also it's very hypersexual.
It is.
And I was a little boy singing these songs and doing the dances where they're talking about, grease lightning, make her slick, make it quick, grease lightning. I'm like, what the hell?
It really is. When you listen to it now, it's very sexual. At times it can be very rapey.
Yeah.
It really is something that's kind of sits in that jar from the 70s. It's like a part of its time, right? Like, I know people love it today, but even when they did the musical on TV recently, they cut out some of those lines that are now considered to be inappropriate.
Yeah.
So I thought that was interesting they went that route, because they're obviously going to piss off a lot of people. But, hey, they did it, and good for them on doing it, I think. I mean,
you know what? I'm sorry that you grew up and you love it, and that's what you're supposed to comes next in the song, but also realize what that means and for people that went through.
There's a really funny College Humor video where they do that song, and as soon as Kaneki says the line about her, did she fight it or whatever, they all stop singing and they're like, oh, Kaneki, come on, what are you talking about over here? What did she fight?
Did she put up a fight?
Yeah, that's it. What do you mean? Did they put up a fight when you talk to them? Like, what do you got to do? Yeah. So they make a play on that. Obviously, that it's not that it wasn't. It probably shouldn't have been in the song in the first place. But that being said, I still enjoyed the movie. I think it's a very enjoyable musical. I didn't love it or anything. I wasn't like, oh my god, now I have to see all musicals. I feel like it did that a lot for a lot of people my age when they were younger. That was the movie that made them go, well, I need to see more of this stuff.
Right. But yeah, we're not talking about Grease today, even though we spent probably too much time on it.
Well, I wanted to give that little kind of foray into it because
it was definitely my bad because it's one of my favorites. We're talking about Grease 2, the 1982 film. And as we know, nothing ever good came out of 1982. Hi.
That's true. You're right, nothing ever good. All right, so Grease was a huge movie. I do want to say, too, one more thing about the first movie.
Sure.
I really enjoyed the opening credits song, Grease. Mm-hmm. I thought that was fantastic.
Frankie Valli and the Four Seasons.
No, they did this one. The song Grease in the first movie was the High School Music Band, I think. It's the opening credits song, so it's not the one Grease in the movie. It's like in the opening credits and the end credits. It's called High School Music Band. Is the band that did it.
Interesting.
And it sounds very 60s and 70s-ish. It really doesn't sound a lot like the music that you hear in the movie. But my wife disagrees. But I thought that was a really great song. So if you go listen to that, it's called Grease. I know the Grease Lightning is the song in the movie. Let's see. Okay, so anyway, back to Grease 2. Patricia Birch directed this film.
Who was the choreographer on the first?
Oh, was she? Okay. Two things I got to say, Wayne, before we get into this movie. I'm going to swear here. Shooter McGavin and Rexy Manning, Sexy Rexy from Empire Records. Mm-hmm. Both those characters in this film. And that was the first thing I noticed. I was like, oh my god, it's Shooter McGavin!
Shooter. One of my favorite actresses, Pamela Alden. You know her from Californication. She's also the voice of Bobby Hill from King of the Hill.
Is she in this movie?
Yeah. She plays Dolores.
Which one was Dolores? Because I like Pamela Alden. I didn't know she was in this.
At the time, she was listed. That was her. Pamela Siegel, that was her name at the time in the credits.
Oh, okay. Interesting. I didn't know that. I actually really like her. So that's another nice tidbit there. Adrian Zemed, obviously, he's another one. Like I knew, like going into this movie, I knew a lot of these people, but I didn't know this movie. Yeah. And it's funny too because Wayne, this movie has become Yeah, there's Pamela Alden. I did not realize that was her. That's kind of cool. Yeah, she plays one of the girls. She looks totally different.
Yeah.
I mean, jeez.
People either love this movie or absolutely hate it.
Dolores, she was the little girl. That's what it was. She
Okay.
was yes, okay. She's the little girl in the movie that makes that connection with Michael, played by Maxwell Caulfield. She's the sister of Paulette. So I did not know, and I don't think she really sings at all. So this movie starts out. You get some of your same cast back. You get Diddy Khan as Frenchie. Mm-hmm. You get the coach Sid Caesar back. You get the principal and the secretary.
Blanche, stop blubbering.
They're kind of fun in this one, but then you get introduced to the new cast, which is Adrian Zemed, Christopher McDonald, Peter Frechette, Leif Green, and then Maureen Teefy, Lorna Luft, Allison Price, Pamela Segal, who we said Pamela Alden now, and obviously the great Michelle Pfeiffer. Mm-hmm. Maxwell Caulfield, we're introduced. He's the cousin of Sandy from Grease 1, mm-hmm. and which is interesting. And not that they can't have cousins in other countries, but she was Australian, he's British, so I thought that was kind of a weird choice. But he's British in real life, which I did not know that going into I did not know Sexy Rexy was British, so that was an interesting take to come out of that. So then it starts with this big song, mm-hmm. where the entire cast is dancing, and that's why I like the opening credits to Grease, where that song I was telling you about, mm-hmm. and it's just animation itself, which I thought was really cool. This one was like, they were like, well, we got to one-up that movie, so we're getting the whole cast, and they're doing an entire dance number, big song, and it just didn't. The song playing underneath what they were singing, I thought was good. The whole thing with all them, I don't know, it was kind of cheesy. I thought it was an interesting choice to make Adrian Zemed, who is the leader of the T-Birds now, that Travolta has moved on. He's a pussy, and he is just kind of a whiny bitch. Like he doesn't exude the cool that Travolta did, if you will. And maybe that was on purpose, because the main character again is Michael, played by Maxwell Caulfield, who is the love interest of Michelle Pfeiffer. Go ahead, Wayne.
Okay, no, I'm just looking up facts and information. You were talking about the opening song from the original Grease. Barry Gibb of the Bee Gees wrote that song, and Frankie Valli does a version of that song as well.
Okay.
So those two, I always I knew there was something that they were involved in it. So
yeah, and
I was like, just what? Anyway, I totally have derailed what you were saying again, but it's still kind of Grease related. So,
and I never heard of the band before, but I was like, oh, it's High School Music Band, like that was their name. Mm-hmm. So, and it doesn't even come up.
And I'm not even sure who does it in the movie and whatnot. I'm going to have to revisit the movie tonight. And my wife Miranda absolutely despises this movie.
Oh, really?
And like most things that are contributed to me, she dislikes. So.
Oh, you get that too. So Grease 2, like you get the sense that they're trying to hold on to that magic, I guess, of the first movie,
or recapture it
at least. Yeah, and it just doesn't work for me. And like you said, it's one of those movies that people either love it or they hate it. It's become, the reason I chose it is because it's become sort of like a cult classic now. There are a lot of people out there that actually prefer Grease 2 to Grease 1.
They're entitled to their incorrect opinion.
Because
I do not love this movie at all.
I think part of what it is the ending, which the ending is very PC and in a way where it was like obviously a way ahead of its time. However, you watch a movie where a guy basically tries to force himself on a girl. This is Grease 2 now we're talking about. In a song. In a bunker. And his buddies are listening on the outside. So not cool, all accounts. And then by the end of the movie, he's like, all I want to do is score, but that's okay, I'll wait. It's like, okay, so like he learned, but the fact that he did it in the first place wasn't good. It just, I just feel like that's why people like it, and that's okay, I guess. Like the ending is very... Like I said, it's very much like, let's all be nice to each other and love each other and be respectful and stuff like that. But you can't do that in the last 5 minutes of a movie that had hardly any of that throughout the entire movie. Mm-hmm. So it was kind of like tacked on at the end, I felt.
Yeah.
There was
The songs are nice. I
The
will say
songs,
that.
yeah.
I'll give them credit. I enjoyed them, but
The one thing that the first Michelle Pfeiffer solo song, first off, I love Michelle Pfeiffer, not the best singer. It was funny because, in the first Grease, there's a chorus, there's people singing behind them. So they're friends or whatever. Well, there was like somewhat of a chorus and a backing vocal behind Michelle Pfeiffer. She was by herself.
Mm-hmm.
So it was kind of like, even like, obviously singing in public isn't realistic, but they kind of made it even less realistic by like giving her like all this other stuff behind her.
Yeah.
Maybe it was to make her sound better. I don't know.
Yeah, definitely comparing her to Olivia Newton-John in the first way, it's like night and day.
Well, Olivia Newton-John, I mean, she's a singer, a professional singer. Michelle Pfeiffer, this was before Scarface, so before she kind of blew up and was everywhere. So
I just mean, trying to live up to that expectation when you're not a singer.
For sure.
Yeah.
Well, then you have Caulfield, who, like, it almost like he never wanted to sing. He barely has any songs until towards the end, and then most of the time that he's singing, he's by himself.
Yeah.
So that I thought that was an interesting choice, and I felt like that was not a creative choice, like an acting choice. Like, he's not going to be able to handle this, or he doesn't like singing in front of people or something.
Yeah.
Which is why cast him in your musical. But I don't know if that's true, people.
If
That's
you've
just a
got
thought.
weak singers, definitely go with more of an ensemble type performance, in my opinion. But
Adrian Zemed was pretty good, I thought. I don't believe that Shooter McGavin actually sang Christopher McDonald. I'm assuming that they had someone do it. Maybe he did. I don't know.
I was really hoping for some finger guns, and
Yes.
I just didn't get it.
I mean, he looks the same, for God's sakes. Like, the guy, he's got gray hair now, but, like, other than that, he basically looks the same as he did.
And we just need to
For almost 40 years ago.
bring up how wonderful it was to see him and Adam Sandler just go back and forth.
Oh yeah, that was a good thing too.
That
They
made
a
me,
video, or Shooter made a video. Yeah,
that made me so happy that he did that, and Adam responded, and then they went back and forth once or twice. It's like, nice.
No, it was good. It was good. It was, like I said, it was fun seeing him and Maxwell Caulfield in this movie, just because they were such a big part of our '90s.
Yeah.
That as those characters that they played, it was fun. I'm not gonna lie, it was good. But the movie itself is pretty awful.
Yeah, it is pretty not good.
It's not good. There isn't a lot of redeeming qualities about it.
And, before we move on, did you? I'm guessing you didn't, but in 2016 they did a Grease live.
I didn't see
with a really awesome cast. Julianne Hough played Sandy. Aaron Tveit played Danny Zuko.
He was in that one movie with Hugh Jackman that he sang in. Not the Greatest Showman, but the other one.
The other singing movie.
Yes, the only two that he's done. Whatever that was.
Vanessa Hudgens, Keke Palmer, Carly Rae Jepsen, Mario Lopez.
Les Miserables. That's it.
Yes. Boyz II Men is the Teen Angels. That was the Frankie Avalon character type thing.
Yes.
Anytime I can see Boyz II Men, I get excited.
I love Boyz II Men. No, I don't watch, because again, I don't like musicals, so I never really watch those. I read the reviews the next day.
It caught a lot of backlash because
They took out they took out all the rapey stuff.
but I really enjoyed it. I was tapping along, singing. Miranda was very irritated.
Of course, because it was you and it was Grease.
Exactly.
We kid.
But not really.
So Grease 2, it's on Tubi if you feel so obliged to go watch it.
Honestly, just watch the first one. You get your fill of what you need.
I agree. Watch the first movie. The first one's good. In comparison, the first one's a friggin' masterpiece. So that brings us to our new movie of the week, and that is John M. Chu's In the Heights, created by Lin-Manuel Miranda. It premiered on HBO Max and in theaters on the same day, so it'll be there for about 31 days. So if you want to watch it, now's the time. It was Lin's first musical that he created for Broadway, and it led him to creating, obviously, Hamilton, which is like the biggest musical like of all time or some shit like that now. And In the Heights is, as I already said, directed by John M. Chu, starring Anthony Ramos, Corey Hawkins, Leslie Grace, Melissa Barrera, Ogul.
I cannot believe Dr. Dre was in this movie.
Ogul Meredith, Daphne Rubin Vega, Gregory Diaz, and of course, the lovely and always fantastic Jimmy Smits, everybody.
When I saw Jimmy Smith, I didn't look at the cast. And Jimmy Smith makes it. I'm like, I knew I was gonna really enjoy this because
Stephanie Beatriz from Brooklyn Nine-Nine. I'm a huge fan of that show, so when she popped up, I was very happy. She's really good in this. Dasha Polanco from the prison show Orange is the New Black on Netflix. Lin-Manuel Miranda plays the guy selling the ices. Noah Catala, this is like his first or second movie. He plays Graffiti Pete. Mark Anthony in a non-singing role, which my wife was very disappointed about.
Yeah, if you're not gonna have the guy sing,
Right, that's what
don't even have him because he's not an attractive man.
That was kind of her point. Granted, he wasn't. I think he was playing like an alcoholic. It looked like we really don't go into a lot of detail.
Drunks sing all the time, bro.
That's true. That's true.
You ever been to a karaoke bar?
All right. Yuznabi de la Vega tells children the story of Washington Heights. Yuznabi owns a bodega and introduces Abuela Claudia, the matriarch of the neighborhood, who raised him. Kevin Rosario, who runs the tax company, that's Jimmy Smits. Kevin's employee, Benny, which is
Dr. Dre.
which is Corey Hawkins, who played Dr. Dre in Straight Outta Compton.
I need to stop right for 1 second. How weird was it to see Jimmy Smits without facial hair?
It was kind of strange.
I'm like,
it
was
was
still a gorgeous man, but
yes.
Nero, what are you doing, bro?
It was a little weird. Let's see. We get to meet the salon ladies, Daniela, Carla, and Kuka, which are the Dasha Polanca and Stephanie Beatriz and Olga Merides are the three salon ladies. And then you have Vanessa, who is the other lead in this movie next to so there's four leads, I would say, right, Wayne? You would agree with that? Anthony Ramos as Yuznabi, Corey Hawkins as Benny, Leslie Grace as Nina, and then Melissa Barrera as Vanessa. I will say one thing about Melissa, too, I'm looking forward to. She's in the new Scream movie.
Nice.
So I'm excited about that already. All right. So Yuznabi's telling basically the story to these kids about what happened in his neighborhood in Washington Heights years ago. There's some twists that we find out later. I don't want to spoil if no one's seen it.
They've had 3 days to watch
They
it.
have had 3 days. By the time this comes out, you'll have had a week. Then it goes into the big musical number about their neighborhood. It's a lot of hip-hop music, so beware of that. If you don't like hip-hop, you may not like this movie. But if you've seen Hamilton, I would imagine that you kind of understand the kind of music that Lin-Manuel writes. He writes it very well, I think. It does have the talk singing in it, which bothers me. But I think the message in this movie, it's about immigrants, the children of immigrants, really. And it's about how they kind of deal with the world as it is today. They did work in, I did read up, Wayne, the Dreamers thing. Obviously, that's a newer thing. He wrote this musical a while ago. So that was newly added for time's sake, for being, taking place now. So I thought that was a good storyline. The music is really good, I think. You kind of I don't know, halfway through the movie, I found myself swaying my shoulders and stuff and getting into it. Mm-hmm. I would say it's an immigrant story, it's a love story, and it's a story about family, all in one. And I think they did a really good job. Apparently, they did have to cut some songs and stuff, which when you do an adaptation like this, that's what happens, because big Broadway musicals, again, if you've seen Hamilton, are 3 to 3.5 hours long with intermissions and whatnot. So if they ever do a Hamilton movie, they'll have to cut probably quite a bit out of that too. Because
they basically already have it on HBO Max. So.
Well, it's on Disney Plus.
That's what I meant.
The Hamilton. Well, it's the Broadway. They filmed the Broadway show.
Not to get off topic again. You know how many times I meant to go to HBO Max and go to Disney Plus or vice versa? I'm I don't know why I feel like they're interchangeable, but it's oh wait.
Well, they came out right at the same time, almost exactly. But it was. I got off track here. So they had, if you're a fan of the musical and you've seen it, they do cut some of the songs. I think the songs that are in the movie work. I've never seen the musical, so I can't say. It does resonate, I think, very well with today and what's going on in society. Everybody, I thought, did a really good job. Great performances all around. That being said, it's not my type of movie necessarily, so I don't know that I'll ever revisit it. But I enjoyed it for what it was.
Yeah.
Wayne, what are your thoughts on
I really enjoyed it. I thought the cast did a fantastic job with the songs and just while being entertaining musically, but also getting to a point and making me emotionally feel as well. I appreciate being able to be. I was going to say be touched on in multiple ways, but no, I really enjoyed this. Like I said, it had some of my favorites in there.
Yeah, it hits at an emotional level for sure.
Yeah.
I think that the big difference too, because we talked about Grease, obviously. Well, I watched Grease on Friday. I watched this on Saturday. In the Heights is about something.
Yeah.
Grease is a love story. It's cute. It's fun.
Right.
In the Heights does that and then some. It does the love story. It does the neighborhood. It does racism. It does immigrants. It does dreamers. It handles all the times, and none of it feels forced. None of it felt like it was like I just said, that they put in the dreamers thing because of where we are now in society, and it felt like a natural inclusion. It didn't feel like out of place or anything. So I think with the 2.5 hour runtime almost 2.5 hours, they had a lot of room to kind of make all this stuff feel right, and they were able to build the characters, which was nice.
Yeah. There were a couple times where it felt a little bit long in places, but again, musicals, hey, you be thankful you're not here for 4 hours.
Exactly.
So.
The characters are very fleshed out for 2.5 hours, I think, and so, having so many characters, you really kind of get to understand all of them, I think.
And I want to bring up Dasha Polanco real quick, and just how fantastic she looks.
Yes.
Again, never really dwelling on a person's physical appearance, but just, if you remember her from Orange is the New Black, she was always a full-figured woman, and she just looks absolutely fantastic, and just the changes that she's, made, and great performance as well. I've always been a fan of her, and just, obviously, if you know Orange is the New Black, and, just what a tragic character hers is.
Yes.
So, I just wanted to highlight her real quick, and just, well done. Just great job.
For me, again, like I said, it was really fun to have her and Stephanie Beatriz from Brooklyn Nine-Nine be like somewhat the comic relief almost throughout the movie.
Yep.
Just because, again, and it was funny too because Stephanie, she's singing throughout, but she never really gets her own part. And then at the end, she got her own part, and I was happy. I was like, that's really cool. People that we like, it's nice to see them do well. And I got that I didn't know she was in it. So like you, I didn't know some of the cast. I knew that Corey Hawkins was in it.
I kept seeing her. I'm like, you know who she looks like? And then I went, oh, yeah, it is. No shit.
Yeah, so, I mean, as you can tell, we had quite a bit of fun with this movie. I think if you're a Broadway nut, and I said this yesterday after watching it, like, if I was really into Broadway, I would love the shit out of this movie. Mm-hmm. So I think if that's you, and you like Broadway musicals, you're going to love this movie. This is a good example of how to take a Broadway musical and turn it into a film, and to have it be successful, I think. Yeah, so I mean, that's basically what I have to say about it. Wayne, you got anything else you want to say about it?
Give it a watch. It's worth your time.
Definitely watch it. HBO Max. Go do it soon, though, so you don't forget and miss it. All right, so we are going to move on to what we've watched this week. I've actually watched quite a few things. So what I'm going to do, we're going to start kind of doing briefer things with these. I'm just going to mention a little bit about what they're about, and then I'm going to tell you whether you should watch it or miss it. So, let's see. I talked about Mayor of Easttown already. That's a definitely watch it for me. The Crazies from 2010. I rewatched this movie. Another remake, I think, that really is probably better than the original. The original was a Romero film. The Crazies was a really cool kind of zombie movie. Not really. It's like a virus that makes people kind of go nuts, and they just start killing each other. And the remake stars Timothy Olyphant and Rodham Mitchell.
Was this in like a farm type area?
Yes.
Okay, yes. Yep. I love this one.
It's a small town. So that's a definite watch it for me. And Wayne just said he loved it. So check that one out. It's either on Hulu or Stars. I'm not sure because I have Stars through Hulu. But that one's really good. I really like Nobody Sleeps in the Woods Tonight. It's a Polish slasher backwoods movie. I compare it to like Friday the 13th meets Wrong Turn. So if that's your style and you like goriness and blood and guts and all that stuff, definitely check that one out on Netflix. Watch it. Who Killed Sarah? The joke around our house is Who Killed Sarah, as Donovan asks me all the time because we watched the first 2 seasons of the show. It is a cheesy telenovela, but with much better acting, better sets, better characters.
Did you say sets?
Sets. S-E-T-S.
Okay.
Sets.
I was like, wait, what?
But it has that too, if what you're thinking.
It looks like I'm going to tune in really quick.
I want to find out who killed Sarah too. But then I say it like that because it is that, and there's a lot of like, oh no, like I can't believe I found out that this person is still alive. But they play it very serious, and it works. So it's a lot of fun, but it's not going to be for everybody, I don't think. So it's a watch it for me, but kind of be hesitant. It may not be your cup of tea. Caveat on Shudder. That's an interesting one about a guy who has to look after a schizophrenic girl in a cabin, and shit starts happening. It's like a ghost story. I say watch it. Skull the Mask, another one on Shudder. It's basically a Spanish. I think it's actually South American, but it's South American slasher about a mask that turns people into psycho killers.
Interesting.
It's very low budget, so that's one. Some people are going to turn it on and be like, "Oh, I can't watch this," because it's pretty low budget. But if you stick with it, it's pretty entertaining. It's very, very gory, very bloody. Watch it. As you can see, most of these are watch it because I mainly watch movies I'm interested in. Very rarely. I do have a miss it coming up there though. Let's see. So last night, we watched 2 movies. We watched Awake with Gina Rodriguez, and it's one of those stories, Wayne, that it's something happens, all the power goes out, everyone loses their electronics, and everyone's been infected by something. In this case, no one can go to sleep, except for a couple people. So one of them is Gina Rodriguez's daughter. She can sleep. So then it turns into, very quickly, Rebecca and I were joking, there's a church that her grandma goes to that she takes her to because she could sleep. And very quickly, they're like, it's the end of days, we need to sacrifice her. And everyone's like, whoa, let's hold on here. It's okay. I would say it's in the middle of a watch it or miss it. You don't have to watch it.
Yeah.
But if you did, I don't think you'd hate it, even though critically it's been hated by a lot of people.
I mean, I'm good with sacrificing children. So.
Yes. Let me know if they need help. The next one I watched, I wasn't getting great reviews, but I thought, hey, I'll give it a shot. It's Mark Wahlberg's Infinite. It's a Paramount Plus, their first original movie to go straight to Paramount Plus. Outside of the SpongeBob movie, I think. But that was kind of in theaters and whatnot. And I see why it went to Paramount Plus. Because
what?
It's
what?
It would have been better if it was the plants.
Oh, God.
It's basically a ripoff of The Old Guard, which came out last year, which was really good with Charlize Theron. Mm-hmm. And it's a movie about people who remember their past lives. But Mark Wahlberg can't remember why he's having these memories. So
that's why he keeps going, what?
What? He's been diagnosed as a schizophrenic. And it's because he's getting these memories, but he can't place them. So, like, he knows karate. He knows how to fight people. He knows certain things. He knows how to weld a sword together that's hasn't been welded. No one's used that method in, like, 400 years or something like that. And it's because he once was a guy that did that. So it's an interesting premise. The movie, it just really falls apart towards the end, and even in the beginning, in the middle. It wasn't very good. I was kind of just left with, like, I really don't care what happens. And so it's definitely a miss it. If you don't have Paramount Plus, you don't have to worry because you won't be able to watch it. Wayne, anything that you got for this week you want to talk about?
One of the things that I noticed about myself was I just revisit the things that I really enjoy, and I really need to branch out and watch new things. I started watching the Fast and Furious movies again.
I've been meaning to do that.
And, I enjoy them, and I watched 4 and 5. I watched 4, and I'm getting ready to start 5.
All right, let's see. All right, so into news and notes. Rumor, this is a rumor, so I'm just going to announce that right now. Namor might already be cast in the MCU. If the rumor is true, he would appear in Black Panther 2. Rumor has it that the actor Tenoch Huerta from Narcos Mexico and Spectre has been cast in the role, and more Atlanteans may join him in the Black Panther movie. So maybe they're going to go to that place, Atlantean, or wherever the hell they're from.
Atlantis?
Atlantis, that one. That place. Carey Mulligan and Zoe Kazan are going to play the reporters who outed Harvey Weinstein and his abuse in Hollywood. Rob Zombie, this is an interesting one, Wayne, officially directing the Munsters movie. We announced this a couple months ago that it was a rumor, but he's come out, he's released the title, and he's like, it's official, I'm doing a Munsters movie, more news to come soon. So it's interesting because everyone on the internet, if you've seen a Rob Zombie movie, there's lots of swearing, lots of white trash people, lots of blood, lots of guts. This is a movie that would probably require him to really pull it back. Apparently he's a huge fan of the Munsters, so I'm holding out hope that he will treat it correctly. We'll see. A lot of people are excited about this. I'm not sure if it'll be theaters, if it will be on Peacock, or what the plan is, but it is coming. So Rob Zombie's Munsters is coming on the way. Anya Taylor-Joy starring in horror comedy The Menu with Ralph Fiennes and directed by Mark Millar. Tiffany Haddish is going to flex her dramatic muscle by starring as Olympian Florence Griffith Joyner, or Flojo, as most people know her. Haddish is also producing. Blumhouse, staying in the Stephen King business after Firestarter, they will produce a Christine remake with Brian Fuller, the creator of Hannibal, writing the screenplay and directing. Mike Myers to play 7 brand new characters for Netflix limited series, the Penta Verite, a series he created about 5 men who have been influencing all the great events in history since the Black Plague of 1347. Cowboy Bebop live-action series adaptation of the anime TV series will premiere sometime in the fall on Netflix, starring John Cho. I don't know much about Cowboy Bebop, but I'm actually excited about it because I like John Cho. Bill Skarsgård becomes the newest member of the John Wick family, is joining John Wick 4. Jennifer Lopez signs multi-year first-look deal with Netflix. The Gruber TV series adds Sam Elliott, Lawrence Fishburne, and Mickey Rourke, who will play the main villain. Harry Melling from The Queen's Gambit and Harry Potter to play Edgar Allan Poe in The Pale Blue Eyes, directed by Scott Cooper and starring Christian Bale. I just found out, Wayne, that Harry Melling is Dudley, for the cousin from Harry Potter. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
You've seen Queen's Gambit. He's in that. He's got a main role. He looks nothing like it.
Huh.
Weird. So weird. Let's see. Here's big news. Confess Fletch, and yes, that's a new Fletch movie, directed by Greg Mottola, Superbad and Adventureland, starts filming in just 2 weeks. John Hamm is playing Fletch. So interesting they went that route. I think he's got that same style of comedy, so I think that might work. I'm actually kind of looking forward to it. I didn't realize that was happening, so that was kind of a surprise this week. Andrew Garfield stars in the new musical directed by Lin-Manuel Miranda from the creator of Rent, called Tick Tick Boom. It hits theaters and Netflix this fall. Conjuring team sets Darren Lynn Bousman to direct first film a new franchise based on real life, the LaLaurie Mansion, home of serial killer Madame LaLaurie. She was portrayed by Kathy Bates on a recent season of American Horror Story, so that people will recognize it from that. Don't know who's playing her in this, or if they're going to have her, because Darren Lynn Bousman recently tweeted that he actually went and stayed in that house. And he said there's like hundreds of years of ghost stories, and they're turning it into a franchise. So he hasn't given away what he's doing his on, but he's excited to get started and for everyone to see that franchise begin. They're apparently trying to have it ready by the end of this year, so it'll be interesting. It's a quick shoot.
Don't rush it.
I know. Take your time, everybody. Live-action Ted prequel heading to Peacock from Seth MacFarlane. Milo Ventimiglia joins Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. Animated Lord of the Rings film called The War of Rohirrim on the way from Warner Brothers. Kingpin 2, possibly in the works with the Farrelly brothers. Hope it's better than Dumb and Dumber 2. Fishburne confirms he's back for John Wick 4, so there's a returning actor. Aquaman and the Lost King is the official title of Aquaman 2. James Wan is returning to direct. Splinter Cell animated series coming to Netflix. Lance Reddick playing Albert Wesker on the Netflix Resident Evil live-action TV show, which I think will be out this fall.
Very excited for that one.
Same here. Jamila Jamil cast as the villain Titania on She-Hulk. The MCU news there. Richter Belmont, which is a character on Castlevania, is getting his own spin-off show on Netflix. They just ended the 4-season run of Castlevania. So they're going to continue it with a spin-off that takes like a couple hundred years into the future. New Predator film from Dan Trachtenberg might go straight to Hulu. Kevin Bacon joins the new Toxic Avenger. Him and Elijah Wood are apparently playing villains in that one. I'm not sure if they're both the main villain or if one's the main and one's like a henchman. That I'm really interested in. Marcus Dunstan, director of the Collector series, is making Unhuman for Blumhouse. John Legend's production company making Bernie Mac biopic. So that'll be very interesting.
Nice.
Batista joins Apple Plus TV show C, which stars Jason Momoa. All right, movies and TV shows coming out in the future. Kate, action revenge thriller starring Mary Elizabeth Winstead, hits Netflix September 10th. Blood Red Sky, a vampire movie on an airplane, hits Netflix July 23rd. New series Sex Life debuts June 25th on Netflix. And Kevin Smith's Masters of the Universe hits Netflix July 23rd. Deaths this last week, Clarence Williams III, he was the original Link in Mod Squad, and he was in American Gangster and Purple Rain, a bunch of other movies, passed away from colon cancer, very sad, 81. Ernie Lively, the actor and father of Blake Lively, and the patriarch of the Lively acting family, dead at 74. So rest in peace to those actors that we lost. It's been great talking musicals this week, Wayne. I didn't think I'd have as much fun because I'm not a musical guy, but there's some good ones out there. I think that people should enjoy.
Absolutely.
All right, everybody. Thank you for listening to Now Showing with Mike and Wayne. For Wayne Yerke, I'm Mike Kirkpatrick. Good night.